Okay, so page 152, Winifred Aldrich, Peter Pan collar, flat collars. And then she moves on to collars. There's a nice little diagram naming all the parts of the collar, and she's giving you different information here. Peter Pan collar, we have the flat drawing here, diagram 1. Essentially, a collar is something that goes around a neck, and so you mainly need to have your neckline. So whatever block you're using, so it could be women's wear, could be men's wear, could be different sizes, it could be a coat, could be a jacket, it could be a bodice block, so there's a lot of different starting points. We've been learning about that. And so what she says here is Peter Pan flat collar. Place shoulder of back bodice to shoulder of front bodice with neck points touching. So that's what is happening in the diagram, but the dotted lines are the back bodice, and you can't really see them that well. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. So here's my front block, and here's my back block, and I need to have the necks going this way. I need to have the neck point touch, which is there, and I need this shoulder to overlap by about 2 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to pivot this down. So I've got to mark 2 centimeters down there first. So that's 1 centimeter in your half scale drawing. Okay, so 2 centimeters. 1 centimeter down from the shoulder on the arm side there. That's half scale, so I'm writing in the measurements in half scale in red. So that's what you do. You use the back. So this is the front, and we need a front and a back together. So we place the back here next to the front along the shoulder line, put the shoulder points together and pivot this until it hits that. Then you've got to so once you have it in place like that, then you just trace off the neck here, a little bit of the center back line. You don't need lots, we're only drawing a collar, so you only need a little bit. And you can dot this on here as well, if you like, to show that there has been overlap. So you can dot it, or if you want to draw a solid line, that's also fine. So that now gives us our neckline and our shoulders together. If we don't overlap it by 2, if we leave the shoulders bang on, what happens is the collar sort of flares out a little bit. It's not only flat, but it's almost like flaring a little. So the 2 centimeter overlap that she is doing here on the shoulder helps the collar sit right along the line of the shoulder and the neck better. So my shoulder, this shoulder, the back shoulder is longer because it has a dart in it. So it shouldn't match in length. It should extend past this shoulder. So that would be correct. So now we just draw in the shape. So you look at the shape that's there, and we're going to imitate that. So all you're doing now is coming out and drawing a line all the way along here, and then a nice curve here. So you're trying to draw this line here. Notice the curves can be different on Peter Pan collars. So, you know, what we're trying to do, our job is to make it look as much like this as possible, so do your best. So we're going to do 6 centimeters. So that means from this neckline here, you're measuring 6 the whole time. So this is a particular scale as well. When you're measuring from a circle, you've got to be careful. You've got to come up like this, like what I call a sun ray. Okay, so if I'm measuring 6, I'm measuring out 6 there. I'm coming to here, then I'm measuring this way. Coming to here, I'm measuring that way, I'm measuring that way. If you kind of keep measuring this way all the way along, you end up with a very strange shape. So just be careful and measure in a kind of sun ray kind of style. 6 centimeters, that's full scale measurement. So that's 3 centimeters for you in your half scale diagrams. Okay, so 6 along there. What you can do, what I would do, is put a lot of dots like this maybe. And once you have a lot of dots, it's a little easier then to join them. Okay, and then you just work on your nice smooth curve. Do as nice a smooth line as you can. And then do as nice a curve in here to the center front as you can. Okay, I'm erasing those because I think they get confusing. So we have, you can see the pattern pieces there. I'm just going to trace off the pattern piece. So you actually need 2 collars. You need to trace off 2 because you have this one, which is your top collar, and this one, which is your under collar. So trace 1 and then trace the very same thing again immediately. So you have your 2 collars there. This is your center back line on the collar. Here is what I call your very important notch. It's your shoulder notch. It comes from this position here. So don't forget to put that in. Now, there's one extra thing that we do on the pattern piece here. So we need to put our seam allowance around these. We need to label them. They'll have a different name because one will be a top collar and one will be an under collar. So the thing that you do on a top collar is you add a very small bit around what's called the style line. There's only a couple of lines on this collar. This here is a neckline that sews to the neck. This is the style line. It's the style line indicates something that the designer chose and drew. So that style line could be different, right? It could be a wider collar, it could be narrower, you could have changed the shape. But the neckline does not change. So you don't change the neckline, you only change the style line. So on the outside of collars, on the top collar, what you do is you add a couple of millimeters onto the edge of the top collar. So it could be 2 millimeters if you just have a thin fabric, maybe 3 millimeters on something like this, but on a coat or a jacket, it might be 0.5. So because half scale is so small, I'll do 0.5 here, full scale on these, presuming it's for a jacket or something. And that way you're just doing 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters. 3 millimeters is fine. It's hard to go any smaller than that. So I'll show you what I mean. It looks like this. You're coming along with your ruler and you're doing 3 millimeters all the way along one of them. The moment, it doesn't matter which one it is, you just choose one. And it's only on the style line. Okay, so once you've got all these dots, you join them and you have your extra bit that's for your top collar. Now actually you bring it into nothing there, so that dot was wrong. So this is the neckline, we can't alter that, so we come into nothing there and we come out and then bring it into our 0.5 there. Okay, so this one is now definitely our top collar because we've added the extra on. So your name or initials, I'm just going to put my initials there because I can't fit my name. This garment, I'm just going to call blouse because it's kind of a generic blouse that we're working on here with this collar. So now we know this collar belongs to a blouse. Now what part of the pattern is it? It is the collar, but there's two collars, so it is the top collar. That's the pattern piece. And how many are we cutting of this? We're actually going to cut one because there's no seam down the back here. It's cut on the fold, so we will cut one to the fold of this one. Okay, so we'll have one top collar coming around, and then we'll cut one to the fold of the under collar as well. Okay, and so then it's after that that you put the seam allowance on. So when you're putting the seam allowance on the top collar, it comes from that red line, from our new bit that we've added. And we don't put seam allowance on the center back line because we're cutting that to the fold. I'm going to put the arrows there. I can't really fit. I can put the fold like that. So seam allowance goes like that and then comes along here.
So how much is our seam allowance?
So the seam allowance in half scale is the same as it has been, which is
45.
exactly. So it takes a little bit of time sometimes on a curved piece to get the lines nice. Okay, so your base collar with your notch, be sure and extend then everything through the seam allowance, so extensions of all your lines. Have your extra bit for your top collar and then your seam allowance. This one will just have seam allowance around it and the same labeling except it says under collar. All right, so this is the construction. Excellent, working pattern. All right, so this is our construction. This is our working pattern. We never cut it. And what are these little pieces called? Pattern, I heard somebody, pattern pieces. So these are your pattern pieces. Very important that you get to know those terms.